So this whole thing, most Americans don't like this AI stuff and Trump pulling in Silicon Valley. So the problem with this is that it's been going on for, well, forever. And part of it is because, well, America getting involved in other countries' business. Um, and that does, like, I hate those people that do that. Like I can't stand the military industrial complex and all this shit because they make what the founding of America is about look bad. They do. Because, it goes all the way to the Philippines, to every world war. And what they've done at every section along the way is they've brought in more surveillance. And it goes back all the way to, the early days of America. It really goes back to when we started getting involved in, other countries' business. Okay, and then what happened is, like with Iraq and Iran, or Iraq and Afghanistan, when we were in there, we had all this technology then. I guess they got, fingerprints, retina scans of everyone. So that serves the military industrial complex. Like, that's not they're not a representation of America, but that, of course, that, they use our military to do all this shit. Okay, so now it's come home to roost. So I don't think it's just as easy as if Trump ignores it and doesn't allow them this. I don't think that's going to help because they're going to do it anyway, and they already have the world's data. It's not just Americans; it's the world. America's really been last on the list. This is an example of the roosters. What is that term? The roosters eventually come home to rest. And it's like every president, and always the excuse that has been used is we have to protect America. Okay, and that's what'll be used now because the same bullshit is being said that China will advance us in this area. So you never can win. Do you see what I'm saying? You never will win against that. Because it will always be a reason for your politicians to say we have to put security before everything else. So at some point, once you're under a surveillance state, and we have been for a long time. All those satellites, they observe Earth, they do everything. So really, the China system is likely because of us. Their surveillance state, all because of the military-industrial complex. How the global war on terror came home to roost. Yeah, Obama helped advance this, so did Bush. And I'm sure many, well, I don't like Obama or Bush, actually, but it doesn't even matter who the presidents are because they're just likely told we need to do this because it's in the best interest of security. There's this whole article from this guy, it was in 2013. And the name of it is The Making of the U.S. Surveillance State, 1898 to 2020. And he wrote it in 2013. All about going through the history of America and as America went into all these other states, or these other, not states, but these countries, and then they ended up under surveillance. So the guy that wrote this also wrote a book called Policing America's Empire, the United States, the Philippines, and the rise of the surveillance state. This professor wrote this. He was out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he said, Americans now live under the Argus eye gaze of digital surveillance, a digital surveillance state, while increasing numbers of surveillance drones fill American skies. In addition, the NSA's net now reaches far beyond our borders, sweeping up the personal messages of many millions of people worldwide and penetrating the confidential official communications of at least 30 allied nations. And he takes it all the way back to like Thomas Edison and even the Dewey Decimal System, because it was all a way of recording things, how many people you have. And yes, that seems like it's a good idea. We should know those things. I get it, but that's all also been a way of how they've been able to slowly take Americans, into this system of surveillance and knowing everything about you. And everybody knows about in the 70s, they did the whole Operation Chaos, with, and there was a whole church committee. The Senate did a church committee on that, that was under Rockefeller, because of the FBI infiltrating, anti-war groups. And then it says here, as the pacification wars in Afghanistan and Iraq sank into a bloody quagmire, Washington brought electronic surveillance, biometric identification, and unmanned aerial vehicles to the battlefields. This trio, which failed to decisively turn the tide in those lands, nonetheless now undergirds a global U.S. surveillance apparatus of unequaled scope and unprecedented power. After confining the populations of Baghdad and rebellious Sunni city of Fallujah behind blast wall cordons, the U.S. Army attempted to bring the Iraqi resistance under control, in part by collecting, as of 2011, 3 million Iraqi fingerprints, iris, and retinal scans. These were deposited into the biometric database in West Virginia that, and so it's us. I mean, we are the global problem. Yes, it's the UN, it's the World Economic Forum and Silicon Valley, because they're part of that military-industrial complex. So I know that people are not happy, and I'm not happy about it. I don't think it's so easy as if Trump just ignores it. He's got to do something about it. I don't know what he plans to do, but it's FBI, it's CIA, it's everybody. It's even the Army has an intelligence division called MID, the Military Intelligence Division, and MID is for short. And it goes on to talk about the satellites from its new 1.8 billion headquarters. The third biggest building in the Washington area, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency deploys 16,000 employees and a $5 billion budget to coordinate a rising torrent of surveillance data from Predators, Reapers, U-2 spy planes, Global Hawks, X-37B space drones, Google Earth, space surveillance, telescopes, and orbiting satellites. To protect these critical orbiting satellites, which transmit most U.S. military communications, the Pentagon is building an aerospace shield of pilotless drones. In the exosphere, the Air Force has since April 2010 been successfully testing the X-37B space drones that can carry missiles to strike rival satellite networks such as the one the Chinese are currently creating. For more extensive and precise surveillance from space, the Pentagon has been replacing its costly school bus-sized spy satellites with a new generation of light, low-cost models such as the ATK A200. Successfully launched in May 2011, this module is orbiting 250 miles above the Earth with remote control, which is remote-controlled U-2 quality cameras that now provide the U.S. Central Command an assured intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capability on everyone. In the stratosphere, close enough to Earth for stratosphere is close enough to Earth for audio-visual surveillance. The Pentagon is planning to launch 99 Global Hawk drones, each equipped with high-resolution cameras to surveil all terrain within a 100-mile radius, electronic sensors to intercept communications, and efficient engines for continuous 24-hour flight. Within a decade, the U.S. will likely deploy the aerospace shield, advanced cyber warfare capabilities, and even vaster, more omnipresent digital surveillance networks that will envelope the Earth in an electronic grid capable of blinding entire armies on the battlefield, atomizing a single suspected terrorist, or monitoring millions of private lives at home and abroad. So it's been going on a long time. Ultimately, America, the world needs to pray. Nobody wants to live under this kind of surveillance state.